What's up, guys? It's Parnellyx, and I want to talk about my Warwick playstyle in 9.8 and how I pilot this champion and make him usable. I hit Challenger this patch, and like 200 LP, over 200 LP, which is really nice. Obviously, I think that's kind of impressive considering Warwick's pretty bad right now. So I want to talk about the things that I did to make this champion a little bit more usable, because the general consensus is that Warwick is pretty bad right now, and I agree entirely. But you basically want to play around into your strengths and away from your weaknesses, and I'll talk about that more in a second. But I want to jump straight into everything I want to talk about in this video, because I got a lot of criticism in my last video talking about the triple trinket trick, because I rambled too much early on in the video, and I agree with that. So I just want to cut to the chase. So this video, I'm going to talk about the builds I'm running, the new builds I'm running. Now, before I go any further, I want to mention all the builds on Warwick are still fine. All the builds you've ran before, all the builds that I've mentioned, everything is fine. But I want to talk about some specific build adjustments that I've made to play around Warwick's power spike right now. Second of all, I want to talk about runes. Third of all, I want to talk about jungle routes. And then fourth of all, I just want to talk about general playstyle adjustments, which are really important that I made to Warwick the last couple patches and allow me to win more games. So I guess first of all, we're going to talk about items. So the two builds that I'm running this patch are Warrior into Guardian Angel, the zombie build. So Warrior into Guardian Angel into tank. Obviously, you go team out early. But this is, and obviously I lost here, but we'll ignore that. This build, though, gives you a massive power spike in the mid game. So once you have Warrior, you're obviously super strong. But once you have GA, or especially when you have Stopwatch, it's really strong. Allows you to make a play and basically get a lead for your team, because you have Stopwatch. You can go for a kill, Stopwatch, and then escape out alive, or engage for your team, win a Stopwatch, win a team fight, and leave. But then Guardian Angel is even better than Stopwatch. It gives you a second life. And even though you're super squishy, you are able to initiate for your team or go for an aggressive play that you normally wouldn't be able to do. So you have a ton of damage. You're basically tanky in a weird way, and you're able to push a lead that you're able to push a lead in the mid game. And this is really important because normally you get Guardian Angel around like 18 to 20 minutes, which is right before or during or when Baron spawns. So if you're able to basically win a team fight or get a few picks, you're probably going to be able to get Baron. If not, set yourself up for Baron by getting a bunch of objectives and kills, stuff like that. It's just a super good power spike to push your lead early on and win the game fast. And this is my favorite build at the moment. And of course, you go tank afterwards. The second build that I'm running is the Wisey Steals build. This is what's so I'll just look up Wisey Steals. I think a lot of people are familiar with him. He is another Warwick main that's high elo on North America server. He was Challenger last year alongside me. He was the only other Challenger Warwick main, and he took a break for like a year, but he's back now. And I talked to him a little bit, asked him about his build because I thought it was weird as hell, but it's something he's been running. So I guess he's trying out my Guardian Angel build now. I think kind of interesting, but yeah, this is the build that I want to talk about that he ran. I thought it looked bad, so I was heavily against trying. I was going to try it out, but I just didn't have any expectations for it. But it felt pretty good. I'm not sure what it is. I think it's just because it has a lot of health and it also has cheap item power spikes, which just makes it very useful. He goes Warrior into Titanic Hydra right away, which I think is just really weird. Into Righteous Glory. And you obviously, as you can see, you get a lot of health, 850 health combined with these two items, and you get a lot of damage with Titanic. And Righteous Glory allows you to engage without having to use your ultimate. So you can Righteous Glory up to someone, up to a team, slow them, and then you can save your ultimate for the team fight on a useful target. But this build just feels pretty good. It's pretty reliable, honestly. You're fairly tanky. You're just really tanky, and you deal a lot of damage. You're not as squishy as the Guardian Angel build. I mean, also when you have Guardian Angel up, it's a little bit different, but yeah, it's just a pretty solid build. So just let me know how you guys, you guys just try it out for yourself. See what you prefer. I run both. I run Guardian Angel most of the time, but I've been actually trying this build I can't really tell you exactly which one is better. I think this is better when I'm against a team that can kite me. So if I'm against, like, example like this, well, kind of. I'd actually probably go Guardian Angel against this team. But, yeah, if I'm against a lot of, like, ranged champions that can kite me out very easily, I think going Righteous Glory in there is pretty nice. But let's talk about runes now. So with rune sets with Warwick, obviously I've always ran Futures Markets. And, well, not always, but, you know, a lot of people know that I've been running Futures Market and Magical Footwear the last few months, but I've kind of stopped doing that. I think it's very reliable, but I don't think it's really necessary, especially considering some of the jungle routes I'll be talking about later on. So this is still an option if you feel like you're going to get counter jungled early on. If you think that the early game is pretty risky for you, if you're against like Graves, Kindred, something that wants to invade you early on and might just, you know, just take too much away from your jungle, prevent you from getting team out first recall. So I will go on occasion, but not very often right now. What I have been running, however, is Sorcery Secondary and Resolve Secondary. So I'll talk about Resolve Secondary, which is conditioning and unflinching. And this is obviously, you can combine this with Tenacity. You get a ton of Tenacity and slow resist. I run this if I feel like I'm going to get kited or if I'm going to get CC locked. Simple as that. Another option is Revitalize, which I will usually go this if I'm against like a bunch of frontline bruisers, which I don't really see much this patch. So if I'm against like, you know, like Darius, Irelia or something like that, and I'm able to constantly heal up. If I'm able to reliably heal in fights, Revitalize can obviously help. Or if I have like something like Soraka on my team or Terexona, that it's really nutty with that team. My last option with runes are Transcendence and Water Walking. This is an old rune set that I used to run back in the day, and I'm back doing it because with Transcendence you get a lot of CDR, which is CDR I've mentioned before is probably the best stat in Warwick, and it's really crucial when I'm going something like Guardian Angel build or, you know, any of the builds I talked about, because I'm not going heavy CDR early on. So having the extra CDR in some of these fights in the mid game is super crucial, and I think it's just a really big power spike for Warwick in the mid game. And then Water Walking, of course, helps you out getting Scuttle Crabs in the early game, helps you out with objective control. It just gives you some early game power, allows you to roam a little bit faster. And this is the rune set that I go when I just want a reliable early game. I think this is my default rune set at the moment. It's my default rune set, but it's pretty reliable in the early game. And sometimes I'll swap it out with Resolve if I feel like I can make a lot of usage out of it. Alright, so now I'm going to talk about jungle routes here. So there's two main jungle routes that I'm running this patch, being Blue Star and Wolf Starts. Sometimes I'll go red into Krugs, but I don't go it very often anymore, just because I think Wolf Star outclasses it most of the time. But I didn't talk about, well, I talked about Blue Star in my jungle routes video a while back. But I missed out one crucial detail that I learned a few months ago that made it way, way better. So I'll just jump right into it. So I start blue. And also, very important detail. This is the jungle route that I go if I suspect that the enemy jungler is going to do a very greedy early game routes. So if they're not going to go for Skull Crabs in the early game, if they're going to go for something like red into Krugs, or if they're going to go like Raptors, Red, Krugs, I don't know. They're just going to like farm this. I don't know. If I suspect that the enemy jungler is going to do a farm heavy route in the early game, I do this to try to take both Scuttle Crabs. Simple as that. This is the goal of this, is to take both Scuttle Crabs and get an advantage that way. Now you can't always do that. Sometimes you have to give up Scuttle Crabs, but I'll talk about that more in a second. So I go blue, Grump, and then I go to Scuttle Crab here. Usually, most of the time, I'll be able to get the Scuttle Crab. I did mention before about how you need wards out in the early game. That's really important. Anywhere between 1 minute and 1 minute 20, you want to get wards out in the pixel bushes, especially opposite side. But yeah, blue, Grump, Scuttle Crab, and if you take this, this is the important trick that I learned a while back that made this route much better than I expected it to be. So after taking these three camps, you're like you're barely not level 3. You're very, very, very close to level 3, but you just aren't. And that's really big for Warwick because you need level 3 to do anything. So I think in my old jungle routes video, I just talked about just going back and farming, just power farming, but no. The goal of this route, I take this Scuttle Crab and I run through mid. I run through mid and I try to soak 2 minions worth of XP. I'll even sometimes literally just sit mid and wait for a minion to die. Sometimes I'll just help kill a minion for my mid laner and like let them last hit it. I don't usually steal it for my mid laners, but you want to get 2 minions worth of XP. 2 minions worth of XP will get you level 3, and that's huge going for the Scuttle fight. Because it'll allow you to clear Scuttle faster because you can fear it, or if the enemy jungler comes, you'll have your E up, which is pretty big. It's a pretty big deal. So usually what I do is I go to try to take this Scuttle Crab. Now, sometimes I actually can't take the Scuttle Crab. The enemy jungler might show up, and then like the bot lane might rotate or something like that, and you just have to give it up. Now, if that happens, just give it up. It's never worth dying for anything, for any Scuttle Crab or anything like that. So at that point, just go back to farming your camps. It kind of sucks, but you'll have to deal with it. It's no big deal. It's honestly no big deal. Legit. I promise you. But the goal is to obviously take both Scuttle Crabs here. So usually you're going to be able to take this Scuttle Crab, and then you can do one of two things. You can either take this blue buff, which is, take both blue buffs from the enemy, which this is a nice punish that you can do sometimes if they greed for like raptors and they just go to wolves. So I actually do manage to do this sometimes, but other times I'll just go back to, just farming my camps as normal. It just kind of depends. So the next route that I want to talk about is Wolves route. And let me know if that made sense or not. So I'm not used to playing. Sorry for my bad paint skills. So the next route that I'm going to talk about, this wasn't in my jungle routes video. And this is a very, very safe route. It's very safe and reliable. And this is my favorite route at the moment, is the Wolves starts. So actually, I'll just talk about just the general playstyle adjustments that I've made. So what I've been doing as of the last patch or two is Warwick feels really bad in the early game, and I feel like I can't contest a lot of these champions that are meta right now. Jarvan, Hecarim, Rek'Sai, you get shit on by a lot of these champions, and they just do way more than you in the early game. It just feels like you're so garbage. Warwick just sucks. But what I learned is you got to power farm through the early game. I have adjusted my playstyle because Warwick isn't a good early game jungler anymore. He used to be back in the day, but he isn't. So I just power farm in the early game, and Wolves start is the best for power farming the early game. So what do? I start Wolves. This is a very weird route, by the way. You start Wolves, you go to Gromp. Okay? You go to Gromp, you go to Blue, and you have the option to go for Scuttle Crab. It's an option. Take it if you can, but if not, usually you're probably not going to be able to take it. I guess half the time I can take it. So it's honestly not that unreliable, but sometimes I can take a Scuttle Crab, sometimes I don't. But after Scuttle Crab or Blue, whichever you can do here, well, if you can take Scuttle Crab or not, I'm just going to go straight over to my side of the jungle, to Raptors, Red, Krugs. Now after Raptors or before Raptors, you can actually sometimes go for Scuttle Crab over here. It's an option, but Scuttle Crabs are just generally just an option with this route. They're not necessary. That's the one thing that's nice about this route. It's a very safe, reliable route. If you don't get Scuttle Crab, it's no big deal. You can still recall and Tiamat. If you do get Scuttle Crabs, great. You're up camps on the enemy. But after Krugs, after I farm my entire red side jungle, you can either recall for 2 long swords and go straight to your camps over here, or you can just walk over here. Normally I just walk. It's no big deal for me because I want to recall after anyways. But I just run straight over here, do Wolves, and then I go back to my Gromp. And this is why you start Wolves. This is why you do Wolves and a Gromp on this route, is because after you do your Krugs, Wolves and Gromp will be back up. And just because of the way spawn timers work. So you're able to take your Wolves and Gromp twice during one route, and that's why you're able to recall on Tiamat. And this is why this route's really important and very, very good, because yeah, it just allows you to power farm and just be up in XP and gold when he normally wins. I should mention that normally my route doesn't go this smooth. I normally just am not just power farming for 4 minutes straight and go through the entire route. Usually what ends up happening is I say I do Wolves, Gromp, Blue, go to my Raptor, something like that, and then a fight will break out mid where I can go get a kill, or a fight will break out bot, or maybe I have to counter gank. I don't know, some crazy stuff. The key thing I want to mention is that you don't need to force anything. Normally, I will do something in the early game here, whether it's getting a Scuttle Crab or ganking, but you don't want to force. If you're not sure if you can get a kill, don't go for it. That's the one thing I learned this last, the last patch on Warwick. You want to power farm to the early game and reliably get to your Tiamat, reliably get to your warrior as early as possible, and that's when you want to start making plays on Warwick right now, because that's where his power spike is, and that's, you know, you don't want to contest Jarvan or like Rek'Sai in the early game. I don't know what else is good. The only two junglers that I see I see often that I do well into are like Kha'Zix and Lee Sin, but it's not even that often. I still see like Jarvan stuff all the time, which I've been banning as of late. But yeah, let me know if you guys like this video. I tried to you know, just get straight to the point so that you guys can use this in your games and try to apply everything I mentioned. I don't think I left anything out, but I'll double check. But yeah, this is just what I've been doing with Warwick right now, and like I mentioned, Warwick, I don't know if I mentioned this actually. Warwick, with what's on PBE, Scuttle Crab is going to be spawning at 3 minutes and 15 seconds instead of 2 minutes. If that pushes through to live, that'll make Warwick really good, because at least I think that should make him really good, because Warwick, the reason why Warwick is bad in this jungle, is iteration of the jungle, is because Scuttle Crab spawn like at 2 minutes, and when Warwick is level 2, and Warwick sucks level 2. He's really good level 3. Oh, he's okay level 3. He's still kind of weak, way weaker than he used to be, but he's pretty good level 3, really bad level 2. So that's where you usually fall behind a lot of these junglers. But if you're able to just do like Wolf's Route or something like that, and then like, you know, Scuttle Crab spawns when you're at Raptors, that would be really, really nice. But I'll talk about that more later if it happens. Anyways, have a good one, guys. Peace out. Let me know if you found this useful. And yeah, just try everything I mentioned and apply it to your own gameplay. So peace out.